This is going to make some people very mad, I'm sure. Now, I feel like I have to do a disclaimer. These are all my opinions. If you disagree, by all means, feel free to comment below. I'm honestly more than happy to have a conversation and like a little bit of a friendly debate. These are 4 controversial takes in the alternative and goth subculture that might piss you off. If you guys are new here, welcome. My name's Laura. I'm a creative. I'm a self-taught makeup enthusiast. I don't really want to call myself an artist per se. I'm a designer in my day job, and I just kind of like dark, alternative, gothic fashion, music, subculture. If that's your thing, I'd love it if you could join me here. Today, I'm talking about some controversial, potentially controversial opinions that I have within the sort of alternative goth space. I feel like I have to give a disclaimer. These are my opinions alone. If you disagree, by all means, feel free to comment below. I'm happy to have like a healthy, friendly debate. Keep it civil, but I'm honestly, like, if you disagree, I'm happy to discuss further. I've been in the sort of, just going to use the umbrella term, alternative space for like a very long time. I've been listening to alternative music since I was about 10, fell in love with the fashion around the same time. Wasn't really able to express myself externally the way that I wanted to. I spent a lot of time online in the alternative space, as well as just kind of generally, and I'm just kind of commenting on things that I see, the conversations that I see people having. So that's kind of where this all came from. Controversial take number 1. For some people, not everyone, I feel like I have to like be so careful with the words that I use because it's definitely going to get misconstrued. I'm making a shorter version of this video for like TikTok and Instagram. And I know already that, like, because you can't be nuanced on those platforms, there's going to be a lot of angry people. Anyways, I hope those people come here and sort of see the longer version and like hear me explain myself. But anyways, number 1, controversial take. The alternative goth subculture is your religion. Atheists, I feel like, and maybe agnostics as well, hear the term religion and get instantly offended by it. So what do I mean by that? Maybe religion isn't necessarily the best term to use. That's sort of the way that I think about it, where it is your everything. It is your community. It impacts your day-to-day life, the way you dress, the way you conduct yourself in the world, the music you listen to, the stores you shop at, the values you have. It sort of touches every or many aspects of your life on like sort of an individual level and an interpersonal level. People ascribe a lot of meaning to it. It's something that they see or think about very fondly and will come to its defense. And so because of that, I sort of see a lot of parallels with the way that religion can kind of fill that space for some people. Online, I see a lot of people being overly defensive about the subculture, especially when people get things wrong, when people define it incorrectly, especially younger people like Gen Zs and maybe even Gen Alphas at this point will dress in alternative fashion but don't listen to alternative music, don't have, shall we say, like liberal and like sort of counterculture values and attitudes that typically come with being in the alternative space. They just kind of like it for the vibes and that's about it. So I see a lot of people being overly defensive to the point of like just straight up bullying people for not fitting their concept of what alternative or goth or whatever should be. Obviously not everyone. These are kind of more vocal, more extreme people, or just people who are more passionate. They'll like come after people who don't fit their idea of what alternative should be. I'm just going to use alternative to kind of act as an umbrella term for like any alt subculture, so goth, punk, etc., you name it. And I don't know, it's interesting. I like studying people. I've taken a lot of like, psychology and sociology courses. So I just find this very interesting seeing the way this all plays out, all these interactions, the way, like, all of that I find really interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of parallels with extreme religious people who see someone who is also part of their religion, but maybe not as observant, and, harass them, shame them, and try and coerce them into living the lifestyle that they live and that they think this other person should live. So I don't know, it just kind of makes me laugh sometimes, just seeing the parallels. It's interesting, the passion that people have. This is just my personal opinion, but like, I don't know. I think if something about being alternative speaks to you, whether it's the fashion, the music, the values, I don't know, if that resonates with you somewhat, then go for it. I don't think we need, first of all, I don't think we need all these labels, goth, alt, whatever. If you're posting online, then like from an SEO standpoint, yeah, it's easier for people to follow you or to find your account. People tend to get a little too extreme in their reactions to people. Like, just let people live. I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal, but that's just me personally. But also at the same time, I understand that like if you don't have another community, if the alternative community is your entire world, and maybe you don't have you don't talk to your family, or whatever, and the alt community is sort of like your found family, I also understand why people would get so defensive of it and so protective of it. Another thing that I'll just add as a tangent, the sort of ideological clash between older millennials, but I feel like mostly Gen X, and younger millennials, Gen Zs, older Gen Alphas.
Oh, this is what goth was in the 80s and 90s.
Almost this superiority of,
you don't understand, you're not doing it right, you have to do it the way that we did it back in the 80s and 90s.
I want to make a longer video on this because this is something that like really pisses me off. The sort of holier than thou, like,
you weren't there, you don't get it, you're not really part of the community
attitude. Let people live, first of all. Second of all, subcultures evolve. I know there's a lot of talk, especially in the goth community, about gatekeeping. Do you want new people to join your subculture, or do you want to fragment it further than it already is and have all of these like subcultures? Like, I'm trying to think of an example here. Like, okay, let's say, well, there's a lot of discourse about this, but like, new goth and, I don't know, romantic goth and trad goth and festival goth, whatever. Maybe they're like, a lot of them are sort of like SEO categories of something, but it just feels like more and more fragmentation of alternative lifestyles and things like that, rather than my personal philosophy, which is like, express yourself however you want, draw inspiration from whatever you want. You don't have to fit a particular mold or aesthetic. You are valid the way you are, and you can still be alternative without looking like kind of a cookie cutter copy of everyone else. The whole point of being alternative, and I'll get into this in a later point, the whole point of being alternative is that it's just sort of rejecting the mainstream and expressing yourself in a way that feels true to you. I think it's kind of stupid to be fighting amongst ourselves, trying to define what goth really is, or the way that you should be dressing, or even the music that you should be listening to. I don't know, I've seen people be like, oh, if you don't like these particular art, like, goth artists from the 80s, then you're not a true goth. And it's like, well, there are bands that have been making music since then, and like, why are those gothic bands not valid, even if their music only came out in, I don't know, 2018? Like, it seems really odd, and I feel like a lot of it is just sort of like longing for the past, being super nostalgic, and you get to a certain point and it's like, oh well, kids these days, I guess I'm saying, people are getting old, and it shows. I've talked too long here, so let's go to point number 2, which is, and I know the vegans are going to come after me for this one, real leather is better than vegan leather. I'm sorry, vegan leather is garbage. Now, I say that, I do have like vegan leather pieces. I've got like some belts, I've got probably a couple pairs of shoes, I think. But it's garbage. It doesn't last long. It falls apart. It's not sustainable because you're just going to have to throw it out pretty soon and replace it with something new. Just buy leather. I understand. Don't come after me. If you're vegan, if your personal ethical beliefs don't allow you to buy animal products, I totally get that. There are tons of secondhand leather pieces that I see all the time in thrift stores. I can name at least 2 thrift and kind of like vintage stores off the top of my head in my city that pretty much just specialize in leather. So like they've got tons and tons of leather jackets, some leather boots, maybe even some leather belts as well. I can't remember. There are a lot of secondhand options that are way more sustainable and better for the planet than buying vegan leather. Real leather, just like, it's more durable, it moves better. I've had several vegan leather belts, and like after a while, just with like wear and tear, they kind of disintegrate and fall apart. Leather will take a very long time to break and become unusable. It'll last you a really, really long time. Obviously, you have to take care of it. But I just think overall, it's a much better sustainable option. And I would say in the long run, it's a better investment because it'll probably last you, like, if not your whole life, it'll last you a very, very long time. Next one is gonna make some people mad. Buying fast fashion, even Shein, even Amazon, does not make you a bad person. I am so tired of the hate train, the way that people pile on top of someone for wearing things from Shein, for being like,
oh, this goth influencer actually isn't really goth because they support Shein or they wear Shein.
Overconsumption is a problem. Yes, that's true. I don't think your entire wardrobe should be Shein. I think you should try, if you can financially, and there are a lot of things to consider. If you can, try and buy other things that aren't Shein, that are better quality. Obviously, well, maybe not so obviously, don't replace your wardrobe every like 6 months and, do a Shein haul every 6 months. Things like that, I agree, are not sustainable. Don't do that. That's bad. I also don't think that it should be this like morality contest. I see people on Goth forums all the time being like,
I have never bought Shein in my life.
And it's like, okay, do you want a medal? Like, you're not automatically a better person than the rest of us just because you don't shop at Shein. I'll admit, I've bought things from Shein before. I feel like in Amazon, I buy fast fashion. I feel like I'm pretty transparent about that online. There are going to be people who are like,
oh, you buy from Shein, you support child slavery.
There is a lot more nuance and gray area. Just reducing it to something so overly simplified is not helpful or constructive at all. And no, it doesn't make you a better person than anyone else, especially if you're like bullying people and harassing them online. It's really weird behavior. My weight has fluctuated a lot. When I went back to work after having my daughter, I was sort of like in between sizes. I still had a lot of baby weight that I hadn't lost yet, and I needed office appropriate clothing. I knew that I was going to lose more weight because my body was like changing so much at that point. I wanted to buy something that was cheap but still looked nice, because also like I was on maternity leave, so like I wasn't making as much money as I do when I'm employed full time. So, I needed something cheap. I needed something that looked decent, that was office appropriate, that I could wear as my weight was changing and my body was sort of readjusting to kind of where it was going to be. And so I ordered some things from Shein. I also thrifted a few things, but like, again, my body was sort of all over the place. The shape of my body was different. I needed a lot of stretchy things. And, when you're at the thrift store, you're sort of at the mercy of like whatever is available. Whatever. There are a whole bunch of things. I could like go into more detail if you're interested, but basically there's a lot of considerations that idiots online, like these keyboard warriors, don't seem to consider, don't seem to realize it's a lot more complicated than that. There's also a common argument I see. I have like a hair or something here that's like really, there we go. There's also from, things that I hear online, Shein has a huge range of plus size options and really cute plus size options that a lot of standard stores or even like less fast fashion stores don't have. So it's not so simple as being like, oh, just go to the thrift store and find something, shop somewhere else. Well, maybe it's expensive. Maybe they can't find their size. Maybe, it's physically difficult for whatever reason for them to go out. It's easier to shop online. I'm just saying, there's a lot more to it than that. Also, another thing before I forget, I mentioned this earlier, but when I sort of fell in love with alternative music, fashion, the whole kind of subculture, I, first of all, was a child, so I wasn't making money. Second of all, it's not that my parents didn't let me dress up the way that I wanted to, but there were a lot of limitations. So right up until high school, I went to a school with a uniform, and then in high school, my high school didn't have a uniform, but there was still a fairly strict dress code. So I still wasn't able to dress in the way that I wanted, express myself in the way that I wanted. Also, like, there were no alternative stores, at least like in the area where I grew up. There were many years where I wasn't able to express myself on the outside the way that I feel on the inside. And when I started to make money and, whatever, all that, then I slowly started to acquire more pieces. But as you're sort of experimenting and falling in love with the subculture and trying out even like different things, like do you want to lean more romantic, vampire goth, kind of more Victorian inspired? Do you want to be more kind of like cyber goth, kind of more industrial, PVC, neon? Do you want to, there's a lot of different areas, different fashion subcultures, I suppose. And when you're trying all that out, like, not everyone has a local goth store that they can just go and try on clothes. It's a lot easier to buy a few things from Shein, from Amazon, from wherever that are inexpensive. You can try it out. You can see if it sort of like resonates with you, because sometimes, you try on something and like that particular style doesn't suit you. You don't feel comfortable in it, whatever the case may be. And then, down the road when you're making more money or you decide that this is for you, then you can invest in more pieces. But personally, I don't think it's that harmful if you're buying a few pieces from Shein, from Amazon, from wherever, to sort of experiment, because it does feel very validating. It's almost like identity affirming to dress the way that you want. You're falling in love with the subculture. I don't think it's bad to buy a couple cheap options before you decide to spend the money and invest in like higher quality pieces. I don't think you should only, and this is my opinion, you can disagree, but I don't think it's that bad to like buy a couple cheap fast fashion options to try it out. I don't think you should have to wait 15 years to save up enough money to be able to splurge on a couple higher quality pieces. All right, last one. I don't like trad goth. I said it. Corpse paint, trad goth, like that. I kind of put up a couple examples on screen to convey what I mean. I would say on like maybe 90% of the people that I see wearing these types of makeup styles, I don't think it looks good. And I know the whole point is like counterculture. It's not supposed to be like traditional beauty standards. That's fine. I just don't like it. And also, like, I realize that there's a lot of skill that goes into doing it, making it look cool and good and scary and whatever. It's really hard. I actually want to try it one time, like just as sort of a personal challenge. I guess more importantly, I don't think that should be the standard of goth or alternative makeup in the way that it should look, if that makes sense. Especially the conversations that I see online, and there's a lot of pushback towards people being like,
trad goth is the only goth that matters.
And like a lot of people are like, no, that's not true. So yeah, I just find it really weird that for at least the TikTok goths, that's sort of the gold standard. And maybe it's just because it sort of like fuses drag style makeup with like, very eye-catching, bold, high contrast makeup. And there's a lot of skill that goes into it. It's very eye-catching. It's like stops the scroll when you're on social media or whatever. I don't think it's the only thing that should matter, and I just don't like it a lot of the time. There's like about 10% of the creators that I see that I actually am like, okay, yeah, no, that looks good. Everyone else I'm like, I don't really like it. But I'm seeing more and more of it. Anyways, those are my controversial takes. Maybe I'll do a part 2 sometime. We'll see. Let me know what you think. I would love, as I mentioned at the beginning, I would love to have a conversation about this. So if you feel very strongly about any of my opinions, I'd love to discuss it in the comment section below, or you can just DM me on any social media. I'd love to talk about this more because these are things that I'm like, I feel very strongly towards, and I know people also feel very strongly towards them. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I kind of want to do more of these like sort of subculture talking videos in the future. So let me know if you enjoyed this one. I'm like still kind of trying to figure out like where I want to take my YouTube channel, but I definitely want to, you know, lean more into the sort of alternative goth subculture. Follow me on my socials. I've got them all linked below. I'll put them up on screen. I'm pretty much Laura Luminary everywhere, and I will see you guys in my next video.